Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Spark of Genius Flesh and Blood video. And this is going to be the first interview we do with none other than the Italian stallion, the gold foil collector, the Triple D, Dante Delfico. Dante, say hi.
Hey there, guys. How is everybody? I'm happy to be on the channel. Fan of your work, even though I haven't seen any of it yet.
You'll see it soon
I
enough.
really have zero videos. So
I'm joined by my co-creator, co-caster, co-commentator, Mr. Rob McGalley. Rob, say hi.
Hey guys,
And
Dante already crapping on the stream.
it took about
Hey, you
5
guys asked.
seconds.
You guys asked me on it. It's not my
It
fault.
took about 5 seconds for him to take a massive dump on us, and we'll see what he could do in upcoming Nats for other people. So we got a couple things we want to talk about. Obviously, being right in the thick of CC season, obviously Dante's been to every major event in North America. So we're gonna. I'm pretty sure that's a first for any American or Canadian for that matter. So we're gonna pick his brain a little bit, live vicariously through him, and see how everything went. So we're gonna start off by a bit of a preamble, bit of a meta talk. So looking on here, I wanted to ask you, Dante, what are your thoughts of how kind of the Tales of Aria heroes stack up versus the older heroes? Have you seen any like surprises in the events in terms of like a deck you thought was like hot garbage but turned out to like 9-0 into like top 8 or something like that?
Mm-hmm. I think that my thoughts kind of echo the thoughts of the people, where I think everybody thought Oldhim was like not good, and the next thing you know, the man is just like busting out wins everywhere.
True.
He seems to actually be a lot better than I had originally thought, and that I think a lot of other people had originally thought as well. I think that right now he's just well positioned for the meta that we're in, which is like super aggressive, because he can just stop a lot of that aggression and still be able to put on some pressure himself. But yeah, it was definitely surprising because I don't know, going into like this most recent calling, I didn't think I was going to see any Oldhim at all. And I saw a lot of Oldhim.
Came out of nowhere. Came out of the
I was
woodworks.
expecting. Yeah, seriously, I don't know. I guess everybody just found like the ideal build for him, and they just hopped on, and that was it. And they just went crazy, as he had some pretty good showing at the most recent calling, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah,
seems to be pretty good.
for sure.
How comparable is he to Ice Lexi?
He's different. Ice Lexi is like a more aggressive and annoying deck, so you'll find that like Ice Lexi is putting on a lot of pressure while kind of stopping what you're trying to do, depending on what type of deck you're on. Oldhim is more like, I'm just going to annoy you so much that you won't even want to play the game by the time I'm finished with you, basically.
Good strategy.
That's how I feel.
Gotcha.
Like, anytime I see an Oldhim, I just like let out a giant sigh, and I realize that this game is going to last minimum 55 minutes. And by the time I'm done, I will be so mentally taxed I'll never want to play Flesh and Blood again, but I got to go to the next round after this. So
You've got like 4 old hymns in a row.
yeah. Whereas at least with Ice Lexi, it feels like, something's happening. I feel like
Right,
I'm
there's
in the
some
game, but really
interaction
you're,
there.
you're not super in the game.
They're firing arrows. They're doing something. They got that Voltaire now. It's not like on Shiver. It's like at least loading 3 of a kinds and like pushing damage back. And they're not just like, yeah, you don't have enough cards to deal with me. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Fair enough. So kind of rolling into that, I know we kind of started talking a little bit about events here. So basically, what's your take on the nationals that have already occurred? As of recording right now, for anyone who's watching, Canadian nationals are on the horizon, along with a couple other nationals coming up this weekend here. But the bigger ones that have already occurred are the UK one, the infamous 15-0 Briar, the U.S. Maple Leafs fan bringing it home with Briar in the U.S. Any of the other regions, I know France had an interesting final. They had a Control Reinar go into Bravo in that one. I think there was a Dash one in Malaysia, a Dory one in like something. I think Briar won Germany and Austria. I think it was the same build actually. So like any hot takes on any of those nationals? I know you were very close to one of them, but anything else?
Yeah, so not necessarily like hot takes, I guess, but it is interesting to see that super aggressive like Lightning Briar deck winning a lot of these events, just because the deck is so new. prior to UK Nats, people didn't really even know that the deck existed. As far as I understand it, the deck was like created by Tarek Patel, who won the United States Nationals.
Yep.
So like obviously he did a really great job with that deck, and I think that his intention was for the deck not to be leaked. And then I believe it was Chris Higashi who played it at the ProQuest and happened to do very well with it, and the deck got leaked. And then Tarek, I'm not sure which he prefers, but I guess him and everybody that he tested the deck with, they were all kind of like, okay, well, I guess everybody knows about the deck.
The cat's
now.
out of the bag, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then next thing you know, in the next week, people had already picked up the deck, but it hadn't gained, too much steam. Obviously, it didn't win the ProQuest. It came fourth, and people don't care about a deck unless it comes first.
True.
But then it's okay because somebody will take it to UK Nats, go undefeated with it, and now it got its first place showing for people to start caring and paying attention. And the next thing you know, it's like 90% of the meta at US Nationals and the calling the next weekend, which is pretty insane to think about how fast the deck can pick up speed. But I guess when something's like good and consistent, it's going to kind of gain traction. It's also like a relatively cheap deck to build. It's a lot of like commons and rares, and you don't really need any super expensive cards. The Majestics are like, because from Monarch, so they're not that much. There's not a whole lot of legendary equipment that's necessary.
I'll add in too that it's probably really easy to pilot as well, right?
Exactly, yeah. And it's not like super difficult to pilot. Obviously there are more complicated lines, and I think that you also have to like have a good understanding in terms of just general fundamentals. But even if not, like you can still pilot that deck to success against most players. So it had like the recipe for everything to kind of come together and make people just want to play that deck. Whereas I think if it was something like Oldhim, which is a little bit more boring to play, probably takes a little bit more finesse,
just a little bit.
Not necessarily everyone's play style. If that had the same story, I don't think you would see nearly as many people kind of hopping on that deck.
Fair enough. A deck for the masses, as they say. No, that makes sense. It's kind of a good point, making that like if it were a much more technically, like you need a lot more reps in a deck, something like Oldhim, even Bravo for that matter, just something that kind of seems like it's good is very, very hard to be really good. Whereas Briar kind of has that nice clean kind of understanding, and then you can bring it to higher levels.
It's built just on the fundamentals of the game, really. You don't really need much else in terms of combo, thought process. It's more just like you draw your hand, you play it out in the most efficient way possible without much thought really involved. I mean, from my experience at least. I'm sure at a pro level, you're thinking a lot more than I would, but it makes it more noob friendly to pick up.
Yeah.
It's definitely more accessible.
In particular, I guess, so kind of landing on the US Nats here. What did you think about? I'm sure you probably saw probably some of the games in person or even online on the stream there, because that was all the stream was doing. Had two chains in top 8. Had Alexi, and then there were five Briars. I'm pretty sure it was 5 Briars. And so, what do you think about like that top 8, and then kind of notable exclusions of very popular heroes, even like 1 event before, 2 events before, like Bravo, Prism, Dash, like the kind of the big ones everyone thought there'd be like a big representation of. So why do you think that happened, and what do you think of the top 8?
Yeah, so I think that I don't know where the Bravo players went, to be honest. I think that maybe they're just, I don't know, they just disappeared, or they didn't do well in draft or something like that, and they weren't able to come to the forefront. The Prism players, I assume, all just got dunked on by like every deck that was there, because I don't know why people think Prism is just not a good deck, man. I don't know why people like that deck so much.
The bluntness.
And I'm sorry to Prism players out there, but I just do not see like how anybody enjoys playing that deck or finds success with it. And obviously, like, that's not to say I've never lost to a Prism before or anything like that, but for the most part, I just feel like the deck is, relatively inconsistent and is easily countered by a lot of things that people can you can just put some cards that, attack for 6 in your sideboard, and you put them in against Prism, you just drop it and you end their turn immediately, and then you just get to play the game again.
Yeah, and I remember like when Prism was a little more famous than it is right now, people would always just sideboard. Like if you were Dash, you'd put in your maximum velocities in your sideboard just to
Red
counter
throttles.
Prism.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
The red throttles.
Chain,
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was playing Chain, I'd put in like ninth blades, and I would just
Yeah,
hold it in
it
my
was
hand and
just
wait for
there
them to
for the
attack,
Prism.
and then you drop it. You just drop it on the field, and they'd be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, my turn's over. Okay, I don't get to play the game anymore." And then you'd be like, "Yeah, sorry, buddy."
Yep.
And then you'd go from there, and that was it.
Can confirm. I remember at the Rhodes when I was Rhodes at Calgary in my final game in the first match, turn 1, he phantasmaclasmed me. Saw 2 9th plate of the Oaths. And I just sat there like, so here are 2 cards, and here are 2 cards where you can get rid of one of them. Enjoy.
That
feels bad, man.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny.
That's the classic.
Yep.
But yeah, so Prism, like I'm not surprised not to see it at the top, to be honest, just because I personally don't think it's a good deck.
Fair.
But then seeing Chain up there, like that was the most shocking thing to me. I don't understand how they didn't run into any control decks that literally just blocked them the entire game without seeds. Even with seeds, like you had to be a really experienced and practiced to be able to beat Fatigue on that deck. You had to understand deck stacking and like counting your pitch, and not a lot of people knew how to do that, and people would kind of just try and luck their way into wins. They used to call the matchup 50-50 when literally it was 99.9 to 0.01. But
so precise.
You know, but I digress basically. So I don't know how the hell they ended up at the top, if they, you know, lucked their way into beating the control decks that just blocked them the entire time, or if they just didn't play against any control players, because obviously Chain is like, it's the best aggro deck in the game, right? It does things that no other deck does, which is just gains card advantage over the course of the game, and you can just block up early, and then you have more cards to play with than your opponent can ever even dream of having. At you know, turn 3 and onwards. So obviously the deck is very good, and it has a good matchup into Briar, simply because you are somehow more aggressive than one of the most aggressive decks in the meta. You also have a Husk, which, you know, is a big help when they're coming in for, you know, attack for 5 or attack for 6. You just throw your Husk in front of it, you don't have to worry, and then that's your pivot, and now, you know, you have your 1-card pivot, which doesn't take anything out of your hand. And you also have your 17-card arsenal from all your shackles, and you're all set, and you can just play. So it didn't super surprise. The only reason it surprised me to see it up there is because I would have assumed that they would have lost to the you know, the Bravos and the Oldhams and the Dashes and the Reinars and literally anybody who can just block the entire game and deck you out. So I don't know how they beat them. Obviously, they know something that I don't, and I don't think that they would have brought Chain if they didn't have a plan for those decks.
It could be as well. People just lowered their guard with Chain, right? Because now it's like, okay, Seeds is banned, Chain is gone, and so I'm sure that a lot of side decks changed in response to Chain being kind of a lot worse than he was before, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, like not to take anything away from those players, because obviously the people who played Chain are very good. I think one of them ended up first seed out of Swiss for Nats.
Yeah, Michael, I think.
And he was the calling champion the week before.
Cincinnati.
So,
Michael,
the guy, he came in and played his Chain. I remember, I think they played. He took the other Chains list, and then they played the Mirror. I think that was the top 8 game or the semis game. It was a Chain Mirror. And the one guy, the name escapes me, they were just playing the Mirror, and he pretty much played like 8 Briars or something. Like he pretty much only played Briars. It said in one of the interviews there, and I just saw, like, because when I was watching the belittle Minnowism package, I was just kind of like, how do you not have to like high roll like Jesus to essentially make it that far? I'm
glad that you said it. I don't want to be the one to say it, but yeah, I don't understand how these Chain decks with like 20% blood debt are hitting every like blood debt card when they're banishing, and they just draw into whatever they need. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. But
there was one turn that Michael had, I think, 4 shackles, and he rolled, I think it was 2 2 boundings, 1 ghostly visit, and then 1 other red. I think it might have been unhallowed rights or something.
So he just won.
4 red cards.
Just won.
100% hit. Yeah.
I mean,
that's when you kind of just look your opponent in the eyes and you go, "Must be nice."
You just blink
he
once.
attributed that win to him being really lucky, and everyone saw that. But it was pretty crazy to watch.
No, for sure. I think it's definitely a very props to both of those players for piloting the deck through that. They also had to do they had to get 3-0 in drafts. They had to they had to get there. It wasn't simple. So not to take away anything from the players played the deck very, very well, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But it was definitely a little bit surprising for me. And kind of rolling into that, I want to talk to you a little bit about the callings, because you went to all of them because must be nice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you pretty much immigrated there for a month and then just came back. So I kind of want to I myself attempted to go to Vegas, got denied on several different levels, but walk us through kind of your experience at the callings. It's the first major, I know there were a couple smaller American events way back when, 2019, in Brendan's heydays when it was 10 people playing the game, but these are kind of the first big events, and I kind of want to ask you, how were the events? Were they run well? Is there something you didn't see? Between anything from Vegas to Orlando itself.
Yeah, so I think that all the events were actually run really well. In Vegas they had their testing period, I guess, which was the Aria.
Yeah, the the world premiere.
Right.
Yeah, so they had that, and that one did not run super smooth. I'm not gonna lie to you. That was a little bit messy.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Yeah, things were not starting on time. It was just it was kind of all over the place, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I had absolutely no faith whatsoever going into the calling the next day that they were going to do a good job.
Yeah.
And then they just completely flipped the script, and everything was run on time. There were basically no issues whatsoever. And it was pretty awesome, to be honest. I think that Channel Fireball did a really great job, and that that level of consistency and quality for each event kind of continued and stayed the same for all of them. It's not like there was one event that was absolutely terrible.
Mm-hmm.
All of them were really good, and they were all extremely well run. So that was good to see. I have one gripe about the events, which is when you're at the feature match table,
which you were frequenting quite a bit.
Yeah, they basically don't allow you to think about your turn. If you take more than 15 seconds to think, the judge always says active player needs to make a move, or something.
15 seconds? Wow, even on 5-card hands,
It's crazy. It's
really
pretty wild. So there's no time to think. I don't know. You can't think about your block. If you watch some of my I think it was my match against it was one of the limited callings. I think it was Cincinnati, but I can't really remember.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll see me look at the judge and then look back at my hand and then look back at the judge 10 seconds later because he's reminding me again that I need to make a move. And it's buddy, I gotta think here because I'm gonna lose the game if I don't think. I can't make a move that quick. You're killing me. Yeah. But that is kind of everybody's gripe when they're on the feature match table. But it's I don't know. It's when I have 30 minutes left in my game and my opponent hasn't said anything to me regarding time. There should be a non-issue in terms of how long I'm thinking to make my move. Especially in the top 8. There should never be anybody telling me, you need to make your move.
Did that happen in top 8? I thought it was only Swiss where they had the timers around.
It does happen in top 8 as well.
Interesting.
It happened to me in Vegas, but I don't know. I was the villain in Vegas because I was counting my deck and stalling. So
I swear that I'm not gonna make a reel of you counting your deck. I told myself I wouldn't. That's not going to be the intro to the video. Don't worry.
It was just I want to clear this up for the people right now. The reason that I counted my deck so many times in Vegas is not because I forgot about how many cards were in my deck. It's because I was counting for different scenarios in terms of what I would draw, to make sure that what I was putting on the bottom would come into my hand and not be banished. So I was accounting for how many plunder runs were left in my deck, so I was counting for the number of draws that I could get from that, how many Artivores were left, how many draws I can get from that. And if I didn't see any of them, or if I banished all of those cards, making sure that I know what's going to be coming up if I don't draw any additional cards as well.
So you just have the full decision tree.
Idiot who can't remember how many cards are in my deck.
Yeah, you were playing 4D chess while they thought you were counting like
big brain Dante with the fork out.
Yeah. Oh, everybody just loved roasting me, and then I became the villain of Fab overnight. But you know what? It is what it is.
You're still the hero in our hearts, man. That's all that matters. You just go there, represent us with the Canadian jersey. I mean, you're in so many pictures there. They think you're American at some point, but you're wearing the wrong jersey. Anyways,
yeah, that's right. Tariq is more
sorry to get off topic. I wanted to address that. I have a public platform now, so I figured I should say something about that.
Oh, I'm gonna get this in post. Don't worry, guys. What do you got? Yeah. So random comment. A lot of people seem to make. You want to tell us about that final Swiss game in Orlando? That people are like. Yeah, the famous Dante Delfico can't shuffle his deck properly. IP5 get roasted.
It wasn't shuffling my deck. Oh my god. Yeah, I guess there's a lot of misinformation that's going on.
Oh, tons.
So basically, the reason that I got an IP5 is because I was in the washroom before my game. So this is the last round of Swiss. At this point, I'm undefeated in the tournament, and I'm guaranteed to make top 8.
So you're 15-0, right? Sorry, I just want to make sure. You're 15-0?
No, 14-0? It was 10-0 at that point.
Oh, it was day 1, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so day 1.
No, it was day 2. It was day 2. So it was my last game of day 2. There's 11 rounds of Swiss, and I had just finished round 10. I just played Matt Rogers and beat him, so I was like very like sweaty and nervous, and I had to go to the washroom. All right,
it's fair. It's fair. You're only mortal.
Yeah, exactly. So I went. I talked to some people, and I was like, all right, I took a walk. I left the venue, and then I went to the washroom. Turns out, the round got called while I'm in the washroom. So I come out of the washroom. I realize that the round has been called as I re-enter the venue, and I start doing my little speed walk / jog back to the table. And the judge can see me because the judge is standing at my table because I'm not there yet. And it's very clear that I'm not there because it's table 1.
Yeah.
So the judge can see me. He's standing there with my opponent. There is a giant crowd of people. And I see them like talking to him. And they told me after that they were saying like, there he is. He's coming right now. I'm like, I think I'm about 20 seconds away from the table because like the table is all the way at the other end of the venue. Like I gotta walk like a mile to get there. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Oh man.
So I'm making my way down as fast as I possibly can. But I'm a slow guy. All right. I also my legs don't work so good. So I'm doing it as best I can.
Oh my god.
And, people are telling the judge, and the judge is literally looking at me like I'm looking the judge in the eye as I'm coming over.
Yeah.
And the over the PA the voice
intercom,
the head judge was like the round has started, and like the judge is looking at me walking. Maybe I'm not full out sprint, but I'm walking pretty damn quick, okay? Especially for my standards. I'm a pretty slow walker. So I get to the table and the judge is like, you're late. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, I was in the washroom. And he's like, well, sorry, I'm gonna have to give you an IP5 and like blah blah blah. Do you understand what an IP5 means? And like this and that. I'm just like, oh my god.
Oh my god.
Why is this happening right now? And people told me after that I should have appealed it because I'm literally looking the judge in the eye and I'm about 20 to 30 seconds late getting to the table. It's not like I'm like 15 minutes late.
I thought it was like I thought it was 1 to 3 minutes. I thought it was in the minute mark where you get an IP5. I didn't think it was.
So I looked at the rules afterwards. If it's a professional level tournament, if you're anything more than 0 seconds late.
Oh, it's literally 0. Okay.
1 millisecond. Yeah.
Like you cannot be late, basically. Period. And I'm sure that if I had appealed it and I called the head judge over, like as the undefeated player, the head judge may take pity on me and be like, "Hey, listen, everybody's got to take a crap every now and again." So
true.
But this guy, I don't know. He was just not having it, and the last thing that I need is to start arguing with a judge.
Yeah.
Because nothing good will ever come from that.
Nope.
And I don't want to make an appeal on this guy, and then he feels all like, oh, he's appealing my decision. Now the next time he calls me over, I'm going to be an asshole. Like, I don't need that stuff.
True.
It's just, it's not going to help anybody. I'm already guaranteed to be in the top 8 anyway.
Yeah.
So what do I care? Now, I should have because I lost 20 elo from that game. 20.
Wow.
All right? I'm gaining like 10 from wins. I lose 20 elo for that game. What the hell is that?
Wow.
Oh my god, it's the most ridiculous thing. I almost won through the IP5 as well, have you know. But that guy ended up winning the calling, actually. So,
well,
Fair enough.
there you go.
Fair
I
enough.
mean, this is
by coming to the round late.
this is a great segue into the next one here. Looking back, the Orlando calling. I know it wasn't that long ago. Tell us what you were running and why. Kind of a brief kind of overview on how your matches went and how the top 8 match went.
Sure. So what I was running Lightning Briar, same as 90% of the people who were there. The reason that I was running Lightning Briar is because I needed a deck to run before the event, and I was kind of like up in the air on a bunch of different decks. I didn't really know which one I wanted to play.
Yep.
Lightning Briar is what I had been practicing the most the week before because I was helping Brendan test against it because he had his nationals coming up, and we had a version of an Earthbriar deck that we wanted to run instead that we had been working on. Our Earthbriar deck was very good, and it beat basically every deck in the meta, but what it lost to was this Lightning Briar deck that we didn't know about until about a week and a half before. So we don't have much time to test against it or figure out how to beat it. So that's what I was playing. I was playing a lot of Lightning Briar, and we were up in the air between Lightning Briar and Earthbriar because we got the matchup down to like a 50-50. But I just felt more comfortable on the Lightning Briar than I did on the Earth build. And also Brendan was kind of our guinea pig because he went into Nats with Earthbriar, did not do so hot, and then
in air quotes
like
there.
We were like, no Earthbriar, no Earthbriar. So we all committed to Lightning Briar the next day for the call.
You guys just sacrificed Brendan and his poor Elo just down the street.
Yeah, it was a little bit unfortunate, but like prior to the calling, we had basically decided that we're going to commit to Lightning Briar because we feel more confident in the mirror than we do if we take the Earthbriar deck in.
Yep.
And we feel like with the Lightning Briar deck, just based on good in terms general skill and fundamentals, we can beat most other players in the mirror. And we had game plans for other decks because we had spoken to the guy that won UK Nats, and we had spoken to Tarek about matchups and stuff like that. So we were feeling pretty good. But then I don't know what happened the day before Nats. Brendan was practicing with another guy that we practiced with, Zach Bunn, who actually won the Pro Quest this weekend. So
he was the guy from Team Covenant, right?
Yeah, he's from Team Covenant.
Congratulations, Zach.
So Brendan was practicing with him when they got into Orlando. And I remember in our little group chat, Zach had basically said, I'm going to change your mind on Earthbriar. And I get to the Airbnb that we're staying in, and everybody's sitting around testing. And they're basically working on the deck and the sideboard. And I was like, you're really switching to Earthbriar? He's like, yeah, I'm switching to Earthbriar. I feel really good about this. And then the next day, didn't go so hot. And then we're all on Lightning Briar for the calling. That's kind of how it went. If he did extremely well with Earthbriar, I'm sure that I probably would have been on Earthbriar instead. But I just ended up on Lightning Briar because, again, that's what I had been practicing the most the week before.
Yep.
If it wasn't going to be Lightning Briar, it probably would have been Dash or Rhinar or just something else. But you guys know me. I'm the ultimate meta slave. So whatever is the most popular deck is probably what I'm going to end up playing. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
Fair enough. That's fair. So you're on the Lightning Briar. You get 11-1. You get top seed, and you're staring at who in your top 8 match?
Oh yeah. So that was great. Yeah, 10-1.
Oh, sorry, 10-1.
Top seed. And then I get Matt Rogers. Actually in Swiss there was basically in all my games of Swiss I felt very good, and I didn't feel like I was in a position to lose any of them, even with my IP5. But I did lose that one. But there was one game, I think it was round 3, where I just got so unbelievably lucky, it was crazy. Like there was just no possible way for me to win this game unless like an insane scenario happens to my opponent, where it was a Lightning Briar mirror and he had to draw like all non-attack actions, which he did, but he drew a Sonata Arcanix and 2 blues. So what he could have done is played the Sonata Arcanix and like pitched to make sure that he hit anything, because we're both at 1 life at that point.
Wow.
He plays the Sonata Arcanix, forgets to pitch, asks if he can pitch afterwards. I say yes, but he only pitches a yellow, so he only Sonatas for 4.
Only the yellow?
He takes the top 4 cards off the top. It's 3 attacks and a Razor Reflex.
Ooh.
Puts them all back on top. Makes a Rune Chant, swings the sword. I happened to draw one of like the 3 blues in my deck that turn, so I can block the Rune Chant. And then I just take 1 card to block the sword, and then I just, swing back on my turn, and I have a Lightning Press in my arsenal that I arsenaled the turn before. And I just hit him with the Lightning Press, and I win like that. And there was probably 0 chance for me to win that game, but things just happened to go right for me. And then after that, I never felt like I was in a game that I could or should lose, basically.
Did the guy check his 5th card to see if he had pitched extra for Sonata? If he would have hit his attack?
He didn't check the river. He's just like no more.
No, he didn't check. He didn't check. He kind of just he had a very sad look on his face. I felt bad, but I mean,
yeah.
Well, you let him pitch.
I was playing to my outs, even though they were like very extremely slim. But if I want to win that game, I have to play to my outs. I played to my outs. My outs just happened to give me the 1% chance of it happening, and I ended up winning. And I think that that's something that a lot of players they don't do. They kind of just accept their loss and just kind of move on. But I think that as long as you're playing to your outs, you'll put yourself in the best chance to win, any game that you're playing. So there was that one, and I was feeling good. I was riding high, and then I'm hearing them call out the top 8 over the intercom. And of course, the 8th name they mentioned is friggin' Matt Rogers. Of course. So great. So I got to play Matt. Yeah, I got to play Matt in my first game of top 8. It's like, oh, great. Okay, so sweet. Which is good, because I know that if I beat Matt Rogers, then I win the calling. Because who else is going to stop me after, I have that kind of momentum going into my next
that's
games.
insane momentum, yeah.
So I'm feeling good. I had already beaten Matt in Swiss already, so I knew that my deck could beat his. The Viscerai deck that he was playing did have a very good matchup into Briar, and we had discussed it before after our game, and just kind of talked about it. So I knew that, going into it, he did have the advantage, but for the most part, I did feel like I could beat him. And we had an extremely close game, a really, really good game, but he did end up taking it in the end. Ruined my calling dreams. And then there you go. Now I got to wait for another calling that I can try with that one instead. So special thanks to Matt Rogers and Sebastian Cavallo for ruining my callings.
If you had to lose to somebody, though. If you had to lose to somebody, you might as well be Matt Rogers.
Well, that's what I said at the end. It was like, if I'm going to lose to anybody, at the very least, I'll lose to Matt Rogers. And then Matt proceeds to lose to Joel.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, dude, come on, man. Like, how are you gonna beat me and then lose to Joel?
At least take it all the way, yeah.
Yeah, seriously. If you're going to beat me, just win the whole event.
Give me the courtesy of winning.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Oh, my God. It's just so sad. But it happens. I'm sure at some point they recorded it, so
yeah, they'll put it up eventually. We were trying to get the footage before today.
I really want to watch it.
It wasn't.
I got hit with 2 free 9th blades. So I mean, the Briar deck already can't block very well, and certainly cannot block arcane damage. So imagine 2 9th blades with 9 rune chance, 9+ rune chance.
It's like half your health just
twice in a game. Yeah, that's twice in a game, and I can't block any of it. So what am I supposed to do? You just sit there and you go, all right, yeah, cool. I'll just lose. Thanks.
Play
appreciate you.
Play to your outs, but your out is just early dinner. So you got the gold foil. So that's the last question out of the calling. So what was the gold foil? How many do you have now? Because you seem to be stacking these things like dollar bills here. And how important are the events like the calling and these kind of bigger events in terms of banking PTIs? Are you looking at getting as many as possible to go on pro tours, or are you just kind of it's a second, you don't really care about it, that kind of thing?
So for me, the main thing about top 8ing these events is the PTIs. Okay. Because guarantees spots in the Pro Tour. The first one was like a sigh of relief, basically, because I was able to get that, which like guarantees my spot on the Pro Tour. But now I have two, so I have one for the Pro Tour and one for Worlds, which is nice. And hopefully I can get another one this weekend at Canadian Nationals. We'll see how that goes. But if I can, then I would feel very comfortable with where I'm at, because even if I do poorly in one Pro Tour, I still have another PTI that I can cash in to go to another Pro Tour and still have one left over to go to Worlds.
Right.
But my goal was always to have two, at least two, and whether that's getting it at Nationals or any of the calling events, at the very least, I would be able to secure my spot on the Pro Tour and have something to go to Worlds, because I always have to save one to be able to go to Worlds next year.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it's always super important. In terms of the gold foils, I have 3 now. The first one I got was a Mask of Momentum, and that was for
the 1K.
being the first player in Canada to hit 1,000
experience.
XP.
Yep. Yeah.
I was there. I remember that.
That was a grind. That was a harder grind than all of the callings put together.
I can imagine. Yeah.
4 a.m. skirmishes in Greece or whatever. And...
oh my god, yeah, that was Jesus.
Yeah.
Too much. I would never ever do that again, and I would never wish anybody to do that. Not even the worst enemy. That was way too much. But then after that, I got one for top 8ing Vegas, and I got one for top 8ing Cincinnati. The Vegas one was a husk, which was like the most depressing thing that could happen to me, because I see the other competitors opening Grasp of the Arknight and Braveforge Bracers. Another mask I think was given out at Vegas as well.
Yeah.
And then I open mine. I come third at the event. Third. And I get a husk, which is probably the second worst one next to Valiant Dynamo. So that was depressing. And then in Orlando, I got Stormstriders, which was nice, because I had them record my reaction. I had Brendan and Hayden record my reaction when I opened it, because I told them that if I got a husk, I would openly weep in the venue, and I didn't care who saw it. So I was very happy to see Stormstrider.
Yeah.
Because if it was a husk or a Dynamos, that would have been it for me. I think that would have been the final nail in the coffin. I wonder
why the husk is so undervalued, because it's such an important card in chain, right?
I know. Hey, listen,
a useful card.
You're asking the wrong guy, Rob. I would love to know from the collectors. I will also say it is one of the nicest looking gold foils as well, because it has gold. It has gold in the actual carrion husk itself. There's additional gold inlays. It looks good.
Dante
it looks way better than the mask, in my opinion, but nobody cares about it.
And the mask doesn't have the gold inlay as well, right?
It's
the
just
mask
the border,
is just
right?
Border, I think.
Yeah, so the Arcane Rising...
Exactly,
yeah. The Arcane Rising and the Welcome to Wraith gold foils are basically just cold foils with a gold border.
But without the in-picture foiling, right?
Exactly, yeah. And then the Monarch and the Tales of Aria ones, from what I understand, and from what I've seen anyway, they have actual additional gold inlay in the actual picture itself. They're cooler, but nobody wants.
The phantasmal footsteps are so beautiful.
I know, yeah, dude, it's crazy. Even the Dynamos look really good. There is additional gold on the boots. Yeah,
you're gonna have to
gold before.
They're gonna have to put money into those. You gotta put up, or that's it. I mean, if people don't think it's worth it, I mean, I'm not the one buying gold foils, so it's about
I don't know,
finding the right buyer, I guess. So good to know about that. Kind of looking forward, as I kind of mentioned at the beginning of videos, we have Canadian Nationals coming up this weekend. We're recording it, I think we're recording 2 days before it starts. The day 2 days or 1? No, 3 days before it starts.
Yeah.
I guess 2 days for you guys, 3 days for me. But kind of a couple questions on that for you. Just wondering kind of what your thoughts would be on what kind of meta breakdown you're expecting. Is it 90% Briar? Are we going to see some spice? Are we going to see some wacky lists coming in?
I don't know. Something tells me we're going to see the 90% Briar.
The 90%
if I ask
Briar?
you two what you're on, I'm almost positive you're both going to say Briar. So just
Well,
just let me have it. What do you guys
Unless
on for Nats?
oh,
Briar.
I'll
you
know.
wanna share.
I'll know on Thursday when I put my deck
Fair enough.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I still have to
that the truth.
de-sleeve. You know how
Yeah.
I'm still using some of my skirmish sleeves that are ungodly amounts of dirty when we do like 20, 30 skirmishes. The
Yeah.
amount of dirt that goes on these sleeves, and then I'm just like, are my hands really that dirty? I'm like, oh yeah, they get pretty sweaty when you're playing like
I
6, 7,
yeah.
8 Swiss in some of these skirmish events. But
I took a wet
man,
wipe. I just wiped
you
all
just
of my
wiped
sleeves
all of
on
them.
my
I
recent
should, but like
my
I
recent bash
gotta
deck. I just wiped every sleeve.
I gotta. I'm not.
You guys gotta see the sleeves on my Ira deck. You can
No, I
ask
don't.
Mike.
I
They
don't
are
want to see the
filthy.
sleeve. Yeah.
Mike played with my Ira deck at Steve's locals one time, and he
Yeah.
was disgusted.
I bet he has some
Weird
things to
gloves.
say about that.
Had to take a shot after for rabies or
Oh my god. Yeah, I need to. I just need to resleeve because sometimes I handle my cards awkwardly when I'm playing online. So I don't want to get called for marked sleeves or whatever, like damaged sleeve. Get a judge over for like,
Yeah,
yeah,
just
he's
be
marked. No,
careful.
I don't want any chance of that. So I'm gonna resleeve whatever I'm doing the night before,
Yeah.
literally, and not play with that deck until the tournament starts. So that's
Some
fair.
people, maybe to answer the meta or to chime into the meta question, some people looked at Matt Rogers' Viscerai list and they got a little excited. So we
I
might see
got
some more
excited.
Viscerai. I know I was pretty
I
excited
got
to see
excited.
that.
I
Yeah.
looked at that deck. I think Nick
And-
Butcher's deck that Matt Rogers piloted. I got to give him credit. Obviously, he built the deck. I think.
Yeah.
Anyways, but point
He
is
usually
that
does, I think.
it's a very nice looking deck. Kind of looking into the next question here, Dante. What hero do you think will come out victorious? What cuisine will reign supreme?
I think it. I don't know. It depends on like gem matchups and stuff, but I would not be surprised.
Gem is going
to
to be the
see-
real winner, I guess.
Gem usually is the real winner. But yeah, it really depends on gem matchups and things like that. Obviously, if Briar is the most represented hero there, which I firmly believe that it will be,
Yeah.
that will probably end up being the deck that takes it out.
The
But if it's not going to be a
statistics-wise.
Briar, it's going to be a Bravo or an Oldhim.
Okay.
Because they're just going to fatigue the Briars. And beating fatigue, especially beating Oldhim, is like, oh my god, it's so hard.
You'll win the
Um,
game and inflict mental damage on your opponents.
Yeah, no, it's like it is extremely difficult. Like it's definitely not something that's easy to do, and you have to have a game plan and like your entire like side deck board to like
to be
know
geared
exactly what you
towards-
need to do exactly to go
Yeah.
into something like that. And I don't think that a lot of people do. And I can tell you, like, I'm not going to tell you exactly how to beat it because I don't
enough.
know when the podcast is going to come out, but maybe I'll tell you after Nats. But you do need to do some pitch stacking, which not a lot of people know how to do either. So that'll make it extremely difficult. And I know that there's going to be at least one person on Oldhim, Demos. So
Just giving that out for free.
I will give that out for free because Demos has already given it out for free.
Fair enough.
Fair.
There's going to be at least one person on Oldhim, so if you don't know how to beat it, you better be prepared to take a loss, like an instant loss, basically, because that's what it ends up being in Swiss.
Yeah.
If you're not 100% prepared to take on like these fatigue decks, and there's a lot of decks that can do it. I've seen people fatigue on Dash, Oldhim, Bravo. I've seen it on Rhinar. I've seen it on Dorinthia. I've seen it on any deck that has block
Surprise.
3s and can run Fate Foreseen and Sink Below, which is every deck. Like
Fair enough.
they can fatigue you. And it's it's not super duper easy to come out on top of that. Obviously, the ones that do it the best though are Bravo and Oldhim. So I think that if we don't see one of the 90% of the Briars that are playing there win the event, it will probably be a Bravo or an Oldhim player who has just been fatiguing Briars all day and taking like free W's because that's just what they're playing in the tournament.
And
That's
can Briar side deck effectively against like an Ice Lexi player? I guess you just run higher pitched, few more blues maybe.
Yeah, Ice Lexi is another extremely difficult matchup, basically anything Ice. But Ice Lexi, I think, is a lot harder to pilot, and it's a lot harder to make a good Ice Lexi deck and like understand what you need to sideboard and everything.
Less consistent as well, probably.
Yeah, I think that there's somebody, I forget who it was. His name is Isaac. I just don't remember his last name. But he does the the Attack Action podcast, and he actually top 8'd on Ice Lexi.
Yeah.
I think I watched that game, and I think
remember,
a lot of
just
people were a
remember
little
the 3 of a
shocked
kind,
at
and
the
I
outcome.
cried, and that's
Yeah,
it.
so he got like unbelievably unlucky. I'm pretty sure in the top 8. I haven't
Yeah.
actually watched it myself yet.
It was pretty insane. I remember the moment he played his 3 of a kind. The commentators
didn't he draw
and the
no arrows or
casters,
anything?
Yeah.
the casters
look at
were
his
like
face.
basically they were talking about how he was going to have lethal this turn. It's like, oh yeah, plays 3 of a kind. Like,
Just
okay, what
passes.
arrow is he going to play? Is it going to be blah 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 this, and then he just kind of ends his turn.
He just passes, and it's
Oh,
just like,
no.
oh, poor
And
guy.
they're like, what?
Oh, it's
What
so
happened?
He's
Yeah.
also, he came in C2, I think. So like he was right under the, so he had, other than the first seed chain player, he had pick choice for pretty much all of his matches. So it was a little
He
depressing.
made the right pick. I think that's pretty much a guarantee. It's just that he was winning that game. One more turn, he would have had lethal most likely. And with like a 6 card hand or 6 or 7 card hand after playing 3 of a kind, like he had a huge chance of drawing an arrow, but just whiffed. And the chat went wild. Commentators were like questioning life,
life decisions.
Yeah. I feel really bad for him. That was a sad loss.
Yeah, no. I talked to him after the event because I had met him and Taylor in Vegas. They're the ones who do the Attack Action podcast, and he was in good spirits, so I don't think he was too sad about it. A top 8 is a top 8, so even if you don't end up winning the event, obviously you're there to win, but for the most part, like if something like that happens to you, you just kind of got to accept it for what it is, and it's like getting double razor reflexed in a chain mirror.
When did that happen? That doesn't happen. I'm pretty sure that's the stuff of dreams.
I remember hearing one of his interviews with one of the people at the calling or at nationals rather, and he was talking about how he felt lucky just to be in top 8. I don't think he expected to be there, so I'm sure that what you said corroborates that story where it happens and then you just gotta smile at it and move on.
Yeah, I think like Ice Lexi is obviously not a very easy deck to pilot either, and it's one of the more expensive decks to build just because of the sheer amount of like legendary armor that's in it, which is why I don't think you'll see too many. Same thing with Oldhim mainly because people really do not enjoy like the strategy that you have to employ to win your games. Everybody just likes going fast. Like nobody likes playing super slow. So
beat down.
That's why I think it's I think it's unlikely that you will see like a lot of them. I think that if people are trying to target the meta and have a good understanding of how to play those decks and they play them, they will see a lot of success because they do really like very easily just take a dump on Briar basically. And if 90% of your games are going to be against Briars and you just have a buy against Briar, then there's almost no reason not to play one of those decks, which is why like I can't say that I'm fully committing to Briar now, despite like my success in the recent calling event, because if I can just bring something that counters Briar, why would I not just do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was gonna say the same thing.
Yeah, that was the plan before Orlando. Was let's just find a deck that counters Briar and play that. But we weren't able to come up with something that was consistent enough to beat the other decks in the meta. Just because there wasn't enough time, basically, because we found out about this Lightning Briar list so
switched really late. Yeah,
but I've had a week since Orlando. You know what I mean? So we'll see if I'm able to bring anything. There's the Matt Rogers and Nick Butcher Viserai list as well, but that's another. You can't just like autopilot play that deck.
That's a
difficult
deck.
You're doing.
Yeah,
There's different game plans for every single deck. You have to understand how to beat every single deck. So it's not easy. It's difficult.
I look forward to his deck tech video. I'm gonna be on that for sure.
For sure. They're all like difficult decks to play, which is why I think that if people were using their noggins, let's say, and they really wanted to have a very strong chance of winning the event or at least top 8ing. Those are the decks that they would bring. They would not be bringing Lightning Briar, but I think that due to the amount of experience that you need on those decks, it will probably deter a lot of players from playing them, which is why I think the meta will still just be 90% Briar.
Fair enough. Okay. That kind of like went through the next question too. Okay, so I guess the next one is more like about structure-wise, like the combination of the fact that it is CC and draft, and that for someone to get to top 8 in like the UK or the Canada or some of those levels, the ones I guess just smaller than the US essentially, but not open registration, you need to essentially play six CCs and then one pod of draft, and then if you qualify for day 2, another pod of draft to get into the top 8. So really, like, who do you think, does this benefit a certain type of player, or like what do you think of the format in general for nationals, and how do you think it could be changed if it needs to be changed?
Yeah, so I think it's cool. I like that they're implying 2 different like modes, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. Like I like that it's CC and draft, so it's not just, if you're the king of CC, you can just kind of roll everybody.
Damn.
Like you also have to be good at drafting. Like you'll notice if you look at the ELO leaderboards right now, I'm very highly ranked in CC. I'm not very highly ranked in sealed and draft. I really suck at sealed and draft. That's something that I've noticed about myself as I play through these callings, is that I'm just not a very good sealed/draft player. So am I worried about it? Yeah, you bet.
Oh yeah,
same.
I don't know about you guys, but I haven't been practicing very much draft, and I think that a lot of people are in the exact same boat where it's like, yeah, I've played one draft at locals at a Tales of Aria pre-release event 6 weeks ago.
You got to get a hold of first edition product to be able to do it.
That's the other, like, the fact that we only had first ed product to draft with, which is not for a big piece of the player base, is not that easy to find a store willing to host drafts with first ed product. Let alone buy the product and like find a bunch of friends to chip in for a box prices start at like 170, 180 Canadian a box. So I found that like a little odd. Like maybe that'll be changed later on. I do agree that having draft means your national champion is a fairly balanced, a well-balanced player to be able to like do well in both formats. So I kind of agree with you there. Kind of jumping into the final couple questions here. The supplementary set that was kind of teased a little bit for I think January. So like, Crucible was the last supplementary set, and I think it was said that they'll get support for all the heroes, which I honestly can't even fathom, because even Crew having that many cards kind of shocked me a little bit. So I'm kind of wondering, what are your thoughts on like what heroes are you looking to maybe bring back into contention, play more of with some fresh support, bring Dash back into the meta? ?
Oh, I can't wait for more Mechanologist cards. My only fear is that they don't help Dash and they're for like Data Doll or some garbage like that.
It's definitely for Data Doll. Let's be real.
That would be probably the most depressing way for those cards to come out.
I hope I get
if they don't really, if they're just bad for Dash, like none of them block, it's a bunch of items. It's like, oh, okay, very cool. I'm just going to go cry in the corner now. I hope it's more like boost cards and not items. That's my main like hope for the cards that are going to come out in terms of the Mechanologist stuff. But I'm just looking forward to every class getting something new, something spicy.
Shake up the meta a little bit.
Exactly, it really shakes up the meta. And with Crew, like there are so many different ways to like play the each hero that came out because of Crucible of War. And just so many different decks that you're able to build and come out with. I think that the supplemental set will be really huge for just breathing some life back into the game, especially after after all of these callings and nationals and stuff.
Yeah.
Especially after skirmish season that's coming up. Like I'm gonna be a little burnt out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What better way to suck me right back in than to release a bunch of cards for every class? Now I got to go start deck building again. I got to go see what works. I got to go back to locals to practice. So I think it's really cool, and I think that in terms of like the timeline that they have for everything to be released, I think that they've kind of done that perfectly.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be really great, and having like a spoiler season through December. Maybe on the December 25th they reveal the best card in the set.
It's Christmas.
It's a Christmas present.
Christmas old him.
Yeah.
Santa old him. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool if they revealed like the legendary jewel or whatever it is. I don't know what it was in the Rudy promo kit. Looked like
a metal.
An iron ore.
It's something that's not environment. That's all. It's not like a land or something or whatever, which is getting a little
like a sideways jewel.
a little old at this point.
Would be a cool spoiler on Christmas Day. I can tell you that much.
For sure.
But yeah, I don't know. I just think that they're kind of doing everything right now, and I think that what we saw from Crucible in terms of how it shook up the meta and how it allowed different decks to be built and played. I'm just looking forward to more of that when the next supplemental set comes out, and I think the supplemental sets are super important for the game from like a constructed standpoint, which is my favorite way to play. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I think it's going to be great.
Fair enough. We just got one final question for you here. So I know you mentioned already being burnt out, but like between you and me, I don't think you ever burn out after watching you play Skirmish. So are you are you planning on heading out to the great old Europe for their December 4th to Utrecht, I believe, for their calling?
So initially, basically Utrecht got I think it was announced just before the Vegas calling was went down. I can't remember exactly, but just before like the Vegas calling had started, and I basically told myself that if I didn't get a PTI, like I didn't top 8 any of the 4 calling events, then I would go to Utrecht to try and get my PTI there. Fortunately, I've been in a position where I was able to get 2 PTIs from the most recent events. So I do not have to spend $2,000 on a plane ticket to go to Utrecht to play, which is good. I'm looking forward to sitting at home and watching a calling.
It's a nice experience.
Instead of actually going to play.
For once.
No, I know. Hey, listen, when the Blitz calling was going on in New Zealand, that was like one of my favorite viewing experiences of all time. I just had my feet up. I was just chilling, watching Ira just tear through the entire event.
There's some Kano. I'm pretty sure there was some Kano in there in the top 8 there.
Yeah.
There was some Kano as you got to the higher tables, but it was really fun to watch, and I do quite enjoy watching Flesh and Blood as much as I love playing it. It'll be nice to be able to kind of sit back and just watch instead of actually having to be there and participate and do all that. As much as I'd love to, I'd also love to save a little bit of money. Because I can tell you right now, these 4 callings, they really eat away at your wallet pretty quick.
Our exchange rate's not great. I just want to see that. I just want to see that step counter after Orlando after that match. I just want to see the increase in steps running to feature matches, which is fair. So basically, is there like a next major event you're looking forward to? And I know Worlds wasn't announced till like Q4 2022 or something like that. Is it the Pro Tours? Is that what you're kind of looking forward to as the next major event?
Well, next major event I'm looking forward to is Canadian Nats, so I can see all my friends.
Major.
Play with the
people. I guess
if people show up, sure. If it happens,
past
sure.
Canadian Nats.
Yeah.
I guess the Pro Tour. What I'm really looking forward to though is a calling event in New Zealand. Because I want to travel to New Zealand, and I think that having a calling event there would be a good excuse to do so. And I think that would be a lot of fun. So I'm hoping that there will be a calling in New Zealand at some point next year. And I think that's kind of what I'm looking forward to the most. And if it kind of like intertwines with a Pro Tour, like it's the Pro Tour one weekend and then the calling the next weekend, that would be really cool. You could get in
super efficient
a week of traveling and 2 events. In while you go to visit, which would be, I don't know, it would just be awesome. So I think that would be a lot of fun, and that's probably what I'm looking forward to most. Obviously, the Pro Tour would be cool, but I think visiting New Zealand and like playing a calling there, where the game was created. Shake James White's hand when I win. It would just be super cool. So.
And here's to hoping we get some callings here in Canada at some point.
Here's hoping.
There'll probably be a Toronto one next year, I assume, once the COVID restrictions, go down a bit. But they're already kind of easing up as time goes on. So I'm sure that sometime next year we'll be fine and we'll get one.
Yeah, no, fair enough. That's all that we had. Appreciate you coming on to our show inaugural interview with Mr. Dante Delfico. It was a pleasure having you. Probably bring you back for some other videos, interviews. If you win more, we'll have you on more. That's just how it works, right? So happy to.
And I gotta win more. I like being here. You guys are my boys.
Exactly. We'll see you soon. We'll see you in a couple days. But to all our viewers, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys at our next video. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
See you guys.